On today's episode 15 of Sculpt N Create, I'm joined by Tom Swales, a physiotherapist, strength coach, athletic trainer, and founder of Conphysio Plus Wellness Performance, as well as the creator of the Advanced Movement Therapist certification, which has trained hundreds of clinicians across North America. For over 20 years, Tom has been helping athletes, creatives, and everyday people move, heal, and perform at their best. Whether working with Olympic and pro athletes, serving as the lead physiotherapist for the Canadian men's alpine ski team, or guiding clients through recovery and performance at his own practice. But Tom's story isn't just about professional achievement. It's also deeply personal. In 2023, a life-threatening infection forced him to rebuild himself from the ground up, using the same principles of movement and resilience that he teaches every day. That experience gave him a powerful perspective on what it really means to overcome setbacks and infuse the way he now approaches performance, recovery, and life. In our conversation, we explore the journey that shaped him, diving into the movement as medicine, bridging the gap between rehab and peak performance, entrepreneurship, and what it takes to build both physical strength and personal resilience. Let's jump in. Here's my conversation with Tom Swales. Welcome to Sculpt N Create, where fitness fuels creativity in helping artists, entertainers, and creatives towards their physical, personal, and career growth. I'm your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and who I have with me is Tom Swales. He's a physiotherapist, strength coach, and athletic trainer. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Trey.
Man, glad you can make it, man. And before we get into everything, I always like to have you to shout out how everybody can get in touch with you and get to learn more about you and maybe partake in your services as well. So shout your links and socials out.
Yeah, so AMTcertified.ca is where people can get educated. There's courses there, certifications, as well as Tom Swales. Tommy Swales at YouTube, lots of long format there. Instagram is swales.tom and LinkedIn, Tom Swales as well. So lots of areas that they can get free education and learn how to move better, reduce their pain.
Okay. All right, cool. Y'all check Tom out. And Tom, we're going to get into it, but this is how we're going to go. We're going to kind of start where you are now, probably go a little bit back into the past, and then we'll fill in the blanks from there.
Yep.
So tell us, man, Tom, what, as we stated earlier, tell us, man, what is it that you do currently?
So I would say my main goal is to affect and help 75 million people by 2030. And the way that I want to do this is to level up the standard of practice across, physical therapy, athletic training, movement coaches, personal trainers, by really kind of combining and helping bridge that gap between rehab and performance, because they are one and the same. They are on the same spectrum. But once you start looking at people through their own individual lens, you start to figure out what exactly they need to move and perform at their best. So an example I like to use for this is I work with a varied population. I work with high-level athletes, and we work with the general population, all the way from, 2-year-olds to 85-year-olds. To emphasize and connect kind of the rehab expert versus, your performance coach. I have the privilege to work with the world's strongest man, Mitchell Hooper. He's from our home city. He came up to me. I've been working with him for the last couple of years. And the first time he reached out to me, he's like, he won. And he's like, I feel like I've been told I need to see you. I said, cool, come in, let's do an assessment. Let's see if we can fine tune you. Now he's already performing the best in the world. So my job now is I'm not going to make him stronger. What he's doing is already working, but if I can improve his resiliency in his training and make sure that we can reduce any potential for him getting hurt, that's my job. So he came into me, he's like, I have right knee, right groin, right low back issues. I said, okay, cool. He's like, when I squat, my groin is it's on fire. Like it pinches, it's painful. It's really limiting. I said, okay, cool. We're going through the assessment, go through the history, a couple concussions. When we look at his visual system, his left eye can't converge. It can't come in on the target, starts to bug out. I said, well, that's interesting. His single leg balance, the main thing is that he could not stand on his left leg for more than 3 seconds with his eyes closed. I said, well, that's interesting. And when he squatted, he shifted to the right. I said, you shift. He shifted to the left. I said, you shift in your squat. He's like, yeah, but I don't know why. I said, okay. We go through the assessment. we find all kinds of motor control stuff on the left side, but his pain's on the right. So guess what his brain's doing? Well, I don't feel like I have good control on the left side, so I'm going to load the right more with every single lift he's doing. So couldn't touch his toes. He's got nerve tension through his spinal cord. So we decompress the spine. We do some little L-DOA stretches. We do some eye exercises to the left side. We do some rolling strategies to the left. And I gave him a simple neck exercise to position his neck better with squatting, with a band around the head. Did some bird dogs and then some squats. It was very simple, right? We applied some movement in certain areas that he was stiff. We made his nervous system a little bit happier, reorganized the structure. The next day, he texted me. He's like, hey, I just PR'd my back squat for 4 reps, no pain. I said, awesome. But did I give him anything high performance? No. I gave him rehab exercises, technically concussion exercises, but because I got his brain to fire up a little bit more effectively on the left, all of his structure below reorganized so that when he was loading it, it wasn't overloading the right because his right side was stronger and had more control, and his brain knew that. So it avoided the left side. So,
I get you.
Right? That's high performance. I helped him perform at his high level. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have a little 85-year-old lady who's afraid of falls. Her foot speed is not where it should be. Her balance issues, and she got posture issues. What do we give her? We give her deadlifts with a kettlebell. We get her to walk across a balance beam, and we put her on the agility ladder. Now, we would classify that as high performance, but it depends on what the person needs. Me giving Mitchell more deadlifts and more squats and try and force his pattern, it wasn't going to fix the issue. If anything, it might make him worse. And the little old lady, giving her 5-pound dumbbells and, low-level exercise, that's not going to help her either. So by looking at each individual, each athlete on the different end of the spectrum, what they required, now we unlock their potential. And that's what I want to help clinicians, coaches, trainers, whatever. If you're working with movement, you're helping people out of pain, getting them to move better, work at high performance, looking at the individual in front of you and finding out what exactly do they need to get them to their high level of performance. That's what I want to bridge.
And definitely interesting because as a fitness coach myself, some people would think when you approach somebody who's 80 years old coming with some kind of ailment and so forth that you got to kind of handle with kid gloves. And you basically like tell them now you got to like meet them where they're at and then really like find what's the underlying issue instead of trying to, go the easy route with them, and that's not really fixing that and thing. And then the opposite way, as you said, with the strong men as well, and everything. So definitely, man, I understand that. So I like the part when we were talking earlier is when we had your pre-interview, you mentioned athlete, like everybody's an athlete.
Everybody's
that's something, so that's a concept. I played basketball in high school and still consider myself an athlete as well for how I work out and so forth. But I never thought of the concept of everybody's athlete because you think of athleticism, you think of sports. You don't really think of what you're doing in your day to day. So kind of explain why do you say that?
Well, let's look at life as a sport.
Okay.
And some people play the sport a little harder than others. Some play a little bit more intensely. Others do not. Now, depending on what the individual's goals are, is it, I just want to be pain-free to pick up and play with my grandchild, or I want to run a marathon? Two very different goals. We need to approach them very differently. I'm not going to take a program for a marathon runner and give it to the human athlete just to pick up their grandchild. They don't need that amount, right? But they do need a capacity so that when they go to the floor, they have enough strength to get up off the floor. They have enough strength to pick up their grandchild and carry them someplace because that's important to them. So when we find out what's important to the individual, now we can approach it from a individual perspective of how do I make meaningful change in their life? And how do I give them the capacity so that when they perform their task in life, whatever that is, they don't get hurt and they can do it repeatedly.
Right.
When you look at everybody as an athlete, treat the human being as a human athlete before a specialized athlete. Let's just provide, can you do these can you bend forward without pain? Can you squat? Can you balance for a certain level up here? Can you go up and down stairs? Right? There's certain things that we all have to do. And there is a level of strength, balance, and control and mobility that we need to perform those things. But as we move into higher performance, the same principles apply, just at different intensities, different levels, and different capacity. So it's looking at the individual. But when we have a baseline, when we can set a baseline of where they're at, then we know, okay, I know how to get you to where you want to be. But before we even look at where they're at, I need to know where they've been. Do they have old injuries? Is there old trauma? Are there pins in their legs and knees that are limiting their ability? Do they have these physical limitations that we're not going to change because their anatomy's changed? So as soon as I know what their anatomy can do, now I can program around that to give them the best opportunity with what they've got.
And I like what you were saying about it just depends on where they're at in their life and what they want to do in life for where they at. And I have said something in the same vein as everybody. Some people come to you and say, well, I'm not a fitness person, or I'm not trying to lose weight or whatever, in some kind of way. And I say you really got to preface it with a quality, what type of quality of life I want to live, or I'm a life person in that regards. With that said, what would you say to the person that, like, and when we were talking, going back into the 80-year-old woman, because a lot of people use the excuse of that I'm getting older, I should feel like this because I'm older. I'm almost 40. I'm knocking at 40 right now. So, like you hear a lot of people joke about, like when you turn 30, what happens when you turn 40, and they act like that's like a rite of passage or a norm to be in.
Yeah, it's just like they're making an excuse. It's okay for me to feel this way because I'm old. I say, well, I mean, if that's a story you want to live on or hang your hat on, that's your choice. But it's a bullshit story, because the amazing thing with the body is you apply the right amount of stressors and a reason to adapt, the body will adapt. Like, you can gain strength and muscle into your 70s. The research has shown it. Now, there's a big fall off for some individuals, but the more muscle, the more strength, the more capacity you have going into those last couple of decades, the last couple of decades are just going to be more enjoyable. You're not going to keep your independence. You're going to be able to look after yourself. You don't need to depend on other people. But if people are going to use the excuse of, well, I'm too old, well, then you gave up. You quit the game before the game quit you. So it's still their choice. But if we can show them, be like, look, in this little bit of time that we just had, you couldn't do these things, but now we made these changes, and you go recheck your work. All of a sudden, oh, my balance got better. Why? Because your brain made the connection. Oh, I'm moving better. It doesn't hurt to bend forward. Amazing. Right? Now there's buy-in. Now there's belief in their ability. And now they're bought in. They're like, okay, great. If you can make this change in 1 hour with me, I wonder what I can do next. And they get excited. And now you've broken down that first limiting belief of, I'm old, I can't do this. I'm like, no, you just haven't been shown how. And I'm going to show you how to do it.
Definitely. I like that, man. I think that goes a long way, where we kind of get into where our mindset, like I'm not able to do what I was able to do when I was 20 and 30 and so forth. And then it's just acceptance, like you said. And I always try to tell people, you got to get away from that. I always said, when I get older, my son has some kids one day, I said, I want to be where they like, granddaddy fat.
Yeah.
I said, I want to be able to keep up with my grandchildren and so forth. Not just see them sitting down, so to speak. So now we talked about, people who are already like dealing with such a, like you said, with the bodybuilder, he had some issues that he was going on, but it wasn't nothing he had like a previous injury and so forth. Can you speak to like people who may have had an injury? Now we talked about correcting that part of it, but what about somebody who have hurt a shoulder, such as myself, like a knee injury and so forth? Like, what would you say to them in correcting so forth? Now we got rehab, but it's still a level of stuff that you need to do to keep prolonging it, so you won't end up back into that surgery room and everything like that. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I want to reframe rehabilitation. When we're rehabilitating somebody, there's actual tissue damage. Like, they're coming out of surgery. If they've torn something, they've had injections, like they've got physical damage. Now, if the body's got scar tissue, or they just haven't moved in a certain way for a certain amount of time, if you haven't squatted for a long time, your knees are going to be sore and creaky, because it's now an unfamiliar movement to your brain. Your nervous system's going to say, you know what? this doesn't feel safe. I'm not familiar with this. We haven't done this in a long time. So I'm going to send these signals of discomfort to stop you because this might be unsafe. You might hurt me. That's the primary job of the nervous system. Don't die. It's always looking to protect the organism. It is, right? When you distill it down.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we associate, like when I squat, my knees are a little bit sore. That's not a signal of damage. That's just a signal of discomfort. And it's because you haven't moved there in a while. Now, if we squat down and 90 degrees of squatting hurts your knees, great. Come out 5 degrees from that. Does it hurt there? No. Great. We're going to sit here and do an isometric, because what we know with isometrics is there's a 15-degree overflow effect of strength. So now by squatting at 85 degrees, I'm actually improving strength at 100 degrees. You get them to come out of that. They go walk, they do something else. Now all of a sudden they squat again. Now they can go to 100. Well, what happened there? We didn't move into the range, but because you developed strength and control there, your nervous system took the brakes off and said, oh no, it feels safe to go here. I'll let you do this now. And then all of a sudden range of motion starts to improve simply because we've given the nervous system and the body what it needs to feel safe in that position. It's all about safety. And the brain is amazing at looking for threats, which is why the news is so good at what it does. It's always telling you the bad things because it's going to draw your attention. If news is good, it's like, okay, great. The world is safe. I can ignore it. You're not going to watch that, but it will pay attention to the signals of potential harm or distress. And the nervous system will look for that. Oh, you know what? This is uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't move there. No. It's because you haven't moved there effectively for a very long time. So if we give people the confidence back that it's okay to move here, then again, we break down that limiting belief that movement is harmful or that movement's harmful, and then we can progress them. And now all of a sudden they're getting better. Oh, it doesn't hurt to do this anymore. Well, great, because your brain, now we can give you load. Let's give you some weights. Oh, I don't know about that. Try it, right? Try it. And then, and if a certain range is painful again, we just don't play there. Pain is a signal, or discomfort is a signal for change. It's telling you to pay attention, but maybe we should change what we're doing or do a different approach. But it doesn't mean we should stop. It just means that we have some practice, or we need a little bit of time to work there so it feels safe again.
Yeah, definitely. You took the words right out of my mouth, because this was going to be my next question, because I have, and still speaking on like athletes and so forth. So athletes that get injured all the time, and I have seen people on Instagram, and that Track Baby comes to mind. She had I don't know if you heard of her, but she played football and everything. So her career had ended due to a knee injury and so forth. But getting back into it, maybe just like working out and stuff like that. I think it was trying to jump on a box jump, and it was like she couldn't do it. She was scared to do it because her confidence was gone. So, and even I can even say I can relate to that too now with my knee injury. It's like I was telling you before, for me wanting to be able to run again and so forth. In my mind, I'm thinking about that hurt knee.
Yep.
And so I know it's a mind thing. So can you speak to that? Like, what's the confidence? Because that make a whole lot of sense what you're saying about the nerve endings, because that does send signals, synapses and everything back to your brain to tell you how you should be moving. But I think it's also too a mental aspect from it too as well. So how do they overcome that, where they can be able to get back into those movements and everything? And is it possible for certain, there's another question I had, part two, is it possible for certain ailments, injuries and everything to come back from, with corrective exercise and stuff like that?
It's finding the path for the person to get back into that. So coming back to someone they see a certain height on a box jump, and in their head, they're like, oh, I'm scared. Well, that fear, just like pain, is inhibitory. It shuts the nervous system down to stop you in your track. No, I don't want you to do this. I'm going to shut everything off. I'm going to disorganize it so that I will physically not let you do this. If it's a 12-inch box and there's hesitation, well, let's go to a 6. It's just like weights, right? Like the height of the box, it's just the intensity. How much intensity are we adding to the bar? Well, if you haven't squatted forever, don't add 200 pounds to the bar, add 50 and just work on that. And then like, oh, that feels good. It feels safe. Let's add a little bit more, just like a height, 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches. And then all of a sudden you feel that pop and you got that confidence back. Your nervous system takes the brakes off, because the nervous system's a brake system. It's not an accelerator. We have so much potential in our bodies that our nervous system will never give us 100%, because if we are allowed to get access to 100%, what is the high likelihood of us getting hurt? it becomes very high. So our actual potential, they think it's anywhere around 50 to 60%. Our nervous system will always leave that buffer room just so we don't hurt ourselves. But the elite athletes, some of them, they have some way of shutting that protective mechanism down where they can just push. But just always remember, the higher you get into performance, the higher likelihood of injury, because they're always on the brink of injury, because they're always pushing their limits. They're always pushing the envelope. So we don't want to confuse longevity with high performance, because they're on different ends of the spectrum. If your goal is to live a long time, have healthy joints, are you going to lift heavy weight every single day? No, because you're going to wear them down. Can you lift heavy weight? Yes, you can, because it's very good, but only periodically. You know, I'm 46. I'll still back squat, you know, a couple 100 pounds because it feels good, but I'll do very low reps and I never go to fatigue or failure. And as soon as I start to feel this weight got heavy, I'm done. I'm done. Okay. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to do something that won't load my spine. So we just have to be more mindful, methodical, and intentional with our training and our exercise selection as we get older. Or if we do have some injuries, we just have to work around them. We're not avoiding them. Now, if you have something that's completely, you know, you have a spine, you have, you know, fusions in your spine, like we're not going to do back bridges. We're not going to do anything with hyperextension because it's your anatomy's changed. Can you strengthen the back? Yes, you can. You're just not going to, you're not going to go into certain ranges that you just shouldn't. So again, and then what is the goal for the person? Like I saw a video at the CrossFit Games where, you know, there's this one event, I don't know if they do it anymore, where they lock your feet in and they're leaning back and they're grabbing medicine balls and throwing it, right? Where you're right. I'm like, oh, like,
yeah, I said this.
Right. And it's like full extension, legs locked in, and then throwing a medicine ball as far as you can go. Now, if they progressed up to that and their spines and their structure can handle it, not a problem. A lot of people can't do that. Or maybe they don't have the range of motion to do it and they're trying to load it. So it depends on the context. What's your goal? What are you training for? Are you training for life? Are you training for performance or sport? Okay.
Yeah.
And then tailor everything around that. But I always like to look at, again, my professional hockey players, world's strongest, whatever it is. If I see imbalances in the body, I'm like, I need to restore the human athlete first before I go after the specialized. You're already the specialized athlete. You're already doing all the repetition, all the patterns, which is causing a little bit of imbalance, but I need to balance you out a little bit so that we can kind of improve that threshold before you move too far into one range. And then all of a sudden something fails. So looking at the human athlete first, restore that, and then go to the specialized athlete, it just makes everyone's life a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say, like, this is what was told to me? I'm gonna use myself as an example.
Sure.
So this was told to me when like I told you before, my medial tibia bone.
Yep.
That's what I fractured.
Okay.
And after the surgery and so forth, I really had got like 3 opinions really, because of the doctor who did the surgery.
Yep.
He was talking about I probably need to go back to do surgery again, but he was feeling about to retire, so he handed me off to another guy. He didn't really do the surgery, so he said he kind of see what the doctor was saying, because he said my legs, I'm bow-legged, and everything.
Yeah. So you got that. Yeah. So your anatomy is a little bit different, and you're going to put stress on certain parts of the knee for sure.
Yeah. Yes. But thing was that when they didn't notice that before. So after the surgery, and I was getting ready to start putting pressure back on my leg and so forth, he was like, oh, that leg is bow leg. And so that's when he gave me to the other doctor. The other doctor said, I really don't do this type of surgery. They were talking about doing the same surgery again.
Okay.
And so he referred me to another guy. So this
passing you down the line, like
pat me down the line. Yeah. So this third guy, he looked at everything and he was like, okay, yeah, I see what they saying. Are you in the pain? And I like, no. And that was the weird thing about it. I wasn't really in no pain the first time I broke it.
Yep.
I was in pain maybe a good week. After that, nothing. Before, up until it was about 2 weeks until I actually went to the doctor, because I'm thinking I just had a sprain. So I didn't have no pain leading up to the surgery. After the surgery, maybe a few days, no more pain after that.
Okay, perfect.
So, but yeah, so back, I guess I got a high pain tolerance or something. I don't know.
It might not be, you might not be stressing or loading the area just because you're bow-legged. your body may have just adapted around it. And if you're performing movements on the right and the left pretty evenly, why are we worrying about it? Like, why? If you're not having pain, to me, I'm like, people come in, I got this clicky shoulder. I'm like, is it causing pain? No. Okay. Well, there might, tendons might be clicking over top of one another, or there might not be enough space in there. So we're not immediately concerned about it. Do we want to create more space by improving shoulder mechanics and movement and load capacity and resilience? For sure. We're going to work on it. But we're not going to overly, catastrophize or be worried about something if it's not painful. If you're moving well and you're functioning well and there's no pain, don't fix it. Just get super strong. Just make sure everything's moving like it's supposed to, so that you can reduce pressure around the knee through your hips, through your feet, through your ankles, through your spine. Who cares?
And that third doctor, to his point, he said the same thing. He said, I don't want to take you through no surgery. You ain't feeling pain, and so forth. So what he did, he said, well, let me look at this right here, because you did, I guess he's seen the bow leg.
Sure.
So he looked at my other leg.
Yeah.
He scanned that. And then he said, you might, at first before he said, you might have grew up with grave disease. And it was like he was just seeing in the back in my past or whatever. Like, sure. So I had at 16, I started having like where arthritis. Well, I know it's arthritis now, but back then it was the cracking of when you bend your knees and stuff like that. It started cracking and so forth.
Okay.
And I used to have pain in my knees and so forth. Doctor said it was just growing pain. He was thinking it was probably like grave disease or something like that, or whatever. Where he's saying I grew too fast. I'm like 6'4", 6'5". He was like, I grew too fast. Well,
I have a comment on this, and I'll let you finish.
Okay, all right, cool. I'm just telling you what he told me. He said basically this is how he explained it. He said I grew too fast, and the body had a way of trying to catch up and everything. So the knees and that's how I probably got bow leg. So when he checked it out, he looked at my other leg. He was like, he said that leg is slightly bow-legged too. So, which is my left leg. Sure. And he was like, he said my right leg, which is the one I hurt, he was like, it's more bow-legged than the left one, but he said it's not egregious enough for me to recommend you going to another surgery and everything. Perfect. So I'm getting to my point. Yeah. Where I was like, well, can I play basketball? Can I do this or do that? He was like, man, just live your life. Don't be worried about what you can and can't do or tiptoeing around or what you thinking you can and can't do. And he said, there's no way to live. But I did ask him these two, am I able to play basketball again and so forth and everything. Now the second doctor, he was like, he haven't seen nobody start playing ball again, and everything or whatever from the injury. Then I researched a guy played football in a year after the same injury I had. So but my question is like, am I able to do any of those things? And then also too, you can go back to what I was talking about when you were talking about I grew up too fast or whatever.
Yeah. So let's go back to, and we see this all the time, kids young athletes that go through these growth spurts and their spines get taller and longer and their bones get a little bit longer. And the old thought was, well, you're tight, your hamstrings are tight, your quads are tight because your bones grew faster than your muscles. Think about that. Bones are like semi-cement. Like they're hard. Do they stretch? No. Do they bend? Yes. Do you think something that's pretty solid like bone is going to grow and adapt faster than muscles that stretch?
Yeah.
No. Okay. But if you're still playing a sport, are the muscles tightening? Yes. But they're going to compress the joints. So now if a kid comes in, all of a sudden their toe touch is terrible, their straight leg raise is tight. I'm like, what also stretched on them is their spine. The covering of the spinal cord is called a dura. All the nerves come out of the dura. It's like a little sheath, and it covers the inside of our skull all the way down to our tailbone. Now the dura is a big source of pain, especially when we're bending and all of a sudden, nerves don't like to stretch. So what do nerves do? They tell the muscles, I need you to protect me and be tight. So if we don't take care of the neural tissue, especially along the spine, and get it sliding again like it's supposed to, all the muscles in the spine, all the muscles in your hamstrings where the sciatic nerves come out in the forearm, they're kind of stuck, right? They're not sliding like they're supposed to. And I tell people, muscles are dumb. They're only doing what the brain tells them to do. And it's either to compensate, protect, or stabilize something. Now, when you have a kid that goes through a growth spurt, their muscles are all tight because it's protecting something. What is that? What are those structures? Typically the nerves. Now with my young athletes, I get them doing some nerve flossing, some spine waving, some spinal decompression stuff, Aldoa, some core work, and all of a sudden they can touch your toes. I'm like, I didn't stretch your hamstrings, did I? No, you didn't. What happened? Because we added stability and control around the spine. We slid the nerves. The nervous system said, oh, I like this. This feels good. Took the brakes off. So when muscles are tight, they compress the joints. So you go into a squat, your quads are doing too much core work or pelvis work. They're trying to hold you upright. They're doing a lot of work that they shouldn't be doing. But when they're always kind of turned on, they will compress the knee joints. I'm just using that as an example. Or they'll limit forward bend.
Yeah.
So when your anatomy, when you had these big growth spurts, maybe the nerves weren't sliding as well as they should. Maybe the nervous system was trying to protect the central structures, that being your spinal cord, and said, you know what, I'm just going to keep all these muscles tight so that you don't move into positions that might hurt the spine or might stretch a nerve. Because if you tear a nerve, you're in big trouble. From a survival perspective, your nerves take priority over muscles. Why? Because if you tear a nerve, you tear that nerve, now every single muscle that's associated with that nerve, gone. You can't run away from the tiger anymore. But if you tweak a hamstring, you can still limp away from the tiger to some degree, right? You tweak a joint, yeah, it hurts, but you still have access to all the muscles around that. So when kids are going through these growth spurts, it's just taking a step back. Okay, you know what? The anatomy's changed a little bit. You're still playing your sports, but we need to recalibrate. We need to reorganize the new structure so the nervous system gives us back our ability to move again. And that's how simple it can be, because muscles stretch. Tendons, they're supposed to be stiff, but if they are constantly working or they're constantly on, they will compress the back, they'll compress the joints, and all of a sudden now everything's tight and stiff. And they say it's growing pains. Partially true, but it is easily correctable if you take that approach of, hey, you know what? The nervous system's telling us something doesn't feel safe. We need to find out what that is. And if you take care of those important structures first, the joints, they start to get a little happier. The muscles feel a little bit looser. And now your performance goes up simply because we reorganize structure with the nervous system. And now everything's working like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, it makes sense, but they didn't tell me none of that.
No, they won't, because and taking a step back and looking at the fundamentals of a human being, like the nervous system controls everything. And if the nervous system doesn't like what you're doing, it puts the brakes on. It increases pain, reduces motor output, and then things feel tight. But if it likes what you're doing, all of a sudden you're doing mobility work, all of a sudden, it takes the brakes off. Now I can move faster because I have less resistance in my body.
I get you. It's like touching the oven, and when it's hot and everything, it's telling you to take your hand off before you hurt yourself.
Yeah. So you feel the hot thing. Does your brain take a second? Hey, what is that smell? No, you're like, what happened? And then you evaluate, because it never wants to. If it feels some threat, it's going to pull you away from that before you even get a chance to think about it. Because if you thinking is slow, feeling is fast.
Yeah.
When we feel something, we react. And then your brain catches up. Oh, what was that? You moved a certain way, but you don't even know why until after the fact.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I understand. So now, so to the second part of it, with me with that injury, like I said, I can move a whole lot better than than when it happened. Am I able to? I mean, in your opinion, I know you're not my doctor or anything, but in your opinion, have you ever seen that where people can come back after a medial
all the time
tibial fracture?
So working with the Olympic ski team, the downhillers, I did that for a couple of years. That was a major injury. Like, when skiers crash and they get hurt, it's usually bad, because they're going 100 kilometers an hour down a hill, off jumps, flying 90 meters through the air on skis. So when they crash, a lot of forces are going into the body. They've got basically these long sticks attached to their legs that don't release very easily, and it starts twisting things around.
Yeah.
So you see these tibial plateau fractures a lot, or at least bruises, bone bruises, injuries, whatever. Usually when they tear an ACL, there's bone bruising. The tibial plateau's damaged. But we rehab them back to skiing so that they can manage those forces again. But we do it methodically. We look at, what can they load? What's the time frame for healing? Do they need injections in the area to get blood flow? Whatever it is. But yeah, it happens all the time. But we take them back to can they move with these fundamental, can they squat? Can they single leg balance? All right, great. They've got that with no pain. Can they move in and out of those certain positions in multiple different planes? Yes or no? And if they can't, okay, great. We need to kind of clean these up. And then, all right, well, they're moving these planes very well. Let's add load now. Great. It's just progression, but it's knowing, it's not necessarily fearing that, oh, I had this tibial plateau injury. If it's healed, it's healed. Is there still going to be pain? Yes, until we've adapted the tissues now to those new stresses. Because again, what's the nervous system going to say? I had pain here for 3 months. It's damaged. No, it's healed. But your brain has learned that these certain movements are dangerous. We have to retrain the brain to say, no, this is okay. But we just progressively load it so that it creates that safety, that safe feeling in the body again. And then they get their confidence back. And then they're not hesitating when they're back to sport.
Okay, gotcha. Now I haven't like tried anything performance wise on it, so I that's one thing I know I need to go get back to, like maybe doing some step ups, and small step ups.
Like don't go back to
rehab.
Basketball's like basketball. Like you're punching the ground, you're jumping, you're cutting. You're not thinking about what your body's doing. You should just do it, but you should have confidence in your body so that you don't have to think about it. It just happens automatically. You should be worrying about the game, where you are performing. But the gym is that safe, stable environment in which we can build confidence so that you're like, you know what? I've done these movements in the gym. I can transfer these to the court. I can transfer them back to the hill. I can transfer them back to the field. Because the worst thing that for an athlete is they have fear going back into their sport. Because if they have fear and apprehension, they're going to get hurt because they're not moving. They're going to protect. And we know if you're going in half-assed into a tackle, a body check, or whatever it is, you're going to get hurt because you're holding back, and those forces end up back into your body, or you're just going to make movement mistakes again because you're too afraid to load that leg to make the cut or make the jump.
Yeah, I get you. When you were talking about your brain still protecting you even though after you heal, there's another one. Like I don't. They say now I have heard like doing the leg extensions. They saying that's not really a good exercise or whatever. This is what I was reading. They were like, you know what I'm saying? So it was saying it was not a good exercise because how you sitting down and you ain't supposed to be in the sitting stance trying to move your legs or something like that in a sense.
I used to be very much on that boat. I used to be I'm like, oh, leg curls and leg extensions. That's not functional.
Yeah.
Right. But what if you have local quad weakness that the quads or the hamstrings, they're a little bit behind the glutes. They're a little bit behind the calves, right? You have this weak link or this weak area. It's not a problem if you just need to do some isolation work to get those muscles caught up and then reintegrate them with your squat so that you can jump again. I'm going to say leg extensions and leg curls are functional because if my hamstrings are weak and they're not letting me squat deep, well, I can't jump because the hamstrings stabilize the knee. But if doing leg curls gets those muscles caught up and I can jump higher now, is it functional? Yeah, because it doesn't matter what the exercise looks like. It only matters what the outcome is. So if all of a sudden, because your knees are bending and they're co-contracting with the quads to allow you to squat deeper, and now you can load more weights, and now you can jump from that position, it's functional. It depends on what the person needs.
Okay. So what am I like doing them leg extensions? Like I said, with this particular knee, I noticed that I can't do the weight that I was doing on it. If we were talking about one leg, so how would I'm gonna get off me in a minute. But like I just want to put this in there too as well because this helping me as well. So like how do I get off, like get the strength up on that part of the leg doing leg extensions, because that will, like you said, help me with the jumps and everything else and so forth. So
my first question is, do you have pain with leg extensions?
Do I have pain? No.
Perfect. Great. So if you know you have one leg that's weaker, where do you need to spend a little more time on that leg? Yeah. And then once that leg is caught up and it feels just like the other leg, now like it's very easy on a leg extension machine. I can do, you can do 100 or 10 reps for 100 pounds on the right leg, but you can only do 5 reps with 100 pounds on the left. Well, we'll call that a 50% deficit. You have to increase the repetitions, or maybe you got to drop the weight a little bit, get more volume in there to get the tendons caught up, to get the joints caught up, because joints take 6 to 8 times longer to adapt. So we know
Okay.
muscles adapt in 6 to 8 weeks, right? Someone goes into their program and they're getting strong, strong, strong. And then by the 6 to 8 week mark, they plateau, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because part of that's neurological, but part of that's muscle adaptation. Now, why do people plateau? Well, it's because the joints haven't caught up yet, because it takes 6 to 8 weeks for muscles to adapt. It takes 6 to 9 months for tendons and joints to catch up because the blood supply is less. And it takes longer and more time for the collagen to adapt to those stresses. So then all of a sudden, after 6 to 9 months, and you're doing the leg extension, all of a sudden the brakes are taken off. Nervous system's like, oh yeah, the joints are caught up. We can add more weight. So I look at plateaus as they're protective. So adding more weight to the bar just because I plateaued on my bench press, no, you just need to spend a little more time on that weight to get the joints caught up. Okay. The tendons need to catch up because the tendons need to transfer forces from bone to muscle and muscle to bone. But if you keep adding weight to the bar and trying to force the tendons, what do we usually damage? Tendon. Tendon failed. Right? So that's where isometrics come into play. That's where maybe a little bit of high repetitions come into play, right? So we can play with variables of training. If we have weak angles or weak links, we just got to spend a little more time under tension, and we have to play with some of those variables to kind of get the joints to get caught up too. So the nervous system says, oh yeah, this feels safe now. Let's put more weight on the bar.
Okay.
Be patient.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And like I said, it goes back into that mindset thing, because you know where you was at before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And then, I like your thought process on plateau is really your body protecting you for the next phase and so forth. And then until it's understand that you are at a stronger point, then it takes the brakes off, like you say.
Yep.
I like that. Okay. All right. So we talked about like certain underlying issues that maybe happen over time. We talked about injuries and how to correct both of those things. But what we haven't talked about is in corrective exercises and so forth is about you touched on it, but making yourself ironclad before that particular ailment gets to a point where it will harm you. So can you speak on that? Like what's that about? And because nobody think about just like food proofing they body in a sense for certain things. Maybe the athlete might think more about it, but we don't think more about it as regular day-to-day citizens and so forth. So or just I ain't gonna say citizens, humans, and everything.
General public,
going through that.
Human athletes.
They're in the public, yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Talk about that.
If our capacity to do a certain task or a certain movement, we're never kind of pushing past that to build up that reserve. I'll use an example. So as we get older, we tend to slow down. Why? We're like, oh, well, my joints, my tendons. Okay, cool. But what if you see your child in the street and a car's coming? You're not going to sit there and warm up. Oh, I got to warm up. No, you're going to go, right? You need maximum output instantaneously. Your nervous system's going to be like, I don't care about, I'm just going to go protect my little offspring over there. Now, if you have trained for that, if you've pushed yourself to that intensity, you won't get hurt, or your likelihood of getting hurt is less. Because there are instances in life where life throws something at us, we have to instantaneously react. But if we haven't pushed our capacity to kind of move into that intensity, well, then our likelihood of getting hurt goes up. Yeah. I'll give you a quick story. So in 2023, I was hospitalized with strep A to the point where I had lung failure, kidney failure, liver failure. So my lungs were filled with fluid, heart failure, liver, kidneys. They're all failing. They had to put me on dialysis. I was in the ICU for 10 days. My toes went black. They thought I was going to be on dialysis for the rest of my life. And they didn't know if I was going to make it. Right? I was in 10 days, 5 weeks in the hospital. I lost 50 pounds of muscle. I had to relearn how to walk. I had to do everything. Just being a little bit of a smartass, I asked one of the doctors, I said, what were my odds? Because I didn't know how sick I was. He's like, oh, you had less than 20%. I was like, oh, shit, I was sick. He's like, you were super sick. And they said, the only reason you're still here is because of how healthy you came in. So that resilience that I built up in my body over 40 plus years of nutrition, resistance training, cold plunges, like all the stuff, right? Sleep. I built that capacity to resist dying. And 4 other people, same age as I am, they were in this hospital at the same time with the same condition. They didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of 5. I was one of 5 that survived. And most people don't survive invasive strep A because I went septic.
Yeah.
I had toxic shock. Most people don't survive. And it made me realize that all the work I've been putting in saved my life because
Yeah.
I had that capacity to resist that stress of the illness, that my body could fight it off and come out on the other side relatively unscathed. So I use that story to emphasize to people, I'm like, you never know what life is going to throw at you, but it's always good to have that reserve of strength, to have that reserve of cardiovascular fitness, to have that reserve
Mm.
of managing stress. Because if life throws something at you that's stressful and you can't manage it, you don't come out on the other side very well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I definitely understand that. So it basically like the old adage of "stay ready so you won't have to get ready."
Yep.
In the sense,
Yeah, I like
basically
that.
yeah. So basically, you preparing your body for something that may or may not happen. But but when in the event it does, is you definitely can probably weather the storm a lot better
Yeah.
than if you did.
It's like
Okay.
it's like walking up the stairs and you're winded. Well, that's
Hmm.
not good. But
Yeah.
I would like to feel good. I'm like, oh, I ran up the stairs. I feel great. That was not stressful. But if everyday activity is kind of stressful for you, well, if you
Hmm.
have to do something above and beyond your regular activity, it's going to feel super
Hmm.
stressful and it's not going to feel
Right.
good. And then we might get hurt. So I'd rather have that capacity. Are we going to be pain free? No. Like, but
Hmm.
I'd rather be strong and
Yeah.
have a pain in my body because I'm 46 than weak and still have the same pain in my body. There's no avoiding it. You're going to have discomfort, but at least if I'm moving around, my body can manage it. And if you can handle stress, things feel less stressful. If I do hard things now, if something hard comes up in the future, not that bad,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I like that. So, what would that look like for an athlete, though? Where they, they don't have anything, apparent that's going on with them. So, how would they foolproof or ironclad themselves more so they can be able to still be able to do their job at a more high at a high efficient level or even higher. So like what things would you take them through or to see like, okay, this is going on. You might need to do this exercise so we can proof that up a little bit more before you have an injury in this area.
Yep. So it's checking in. It's having a way to self-scan yourself.
Hmm.
So many times people with all my assessments, I go through it the exact same with everybody. So, and then the algorithm kind of points me in the direction of what we need to work on in that moment. One of the tests I have them do, can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds with your eyes closed? Yes or no? And you know how many times people realize, I didn't realize how bad my balance was. I was like, well, when was the last time you checked? Oh, I don't know. Well, because you didn't realize it was gone because you never checked it. But if you have simple fundamental movements to check in with every once in a while, once a week, that you can be like, oh, you know what? I can't do this. So now I know what I need to train. I need to work on my balance. Oh, I can bend forward. I need to work on mobility. My hips don't rotate. I need to work on my hip rotation, right? It's having a self scan. And that's why I created a tool for my athletes that they can do for themselves
Hmm.
because coming to me with every little ache and pain or tight area, I'm like, this is a waste of our time. If I can teach you how to assess yourself really quickly in 3 minutes, and then oh, you know what, my rotation here isn't very good. Oh, I got to do my rib lifts. I got to do some band openers and I got to do some hip rotations. Go check. Great. Doesn't feel tight anymore. So that's why,
Hmm.
the self-awareness movement scan that I sent to you, it's a check-in. It's a quick screen. Can I do these basic movements? Because if I can't touch my toes or my hamstrings feel tight on one side, should I swing a kettlebell that day? Probably not, because that's going to create torque in the system and you might tweak something. But if it's clean, great. I can hip hinge today. I can kettlebell swing, not a problem. If my hips aren't rotating, well, if I can't rotate to the left very well and it's coming from my T-spine or my hips, well, guess where that rotation might go into? Might go into my knee or might go into my lower back because
Hmm.
energy moves to the area of least resistance. And guess what? Don't rotate. Low back doesn't rotate and your knees don't rotate, but you will put that force someplace and your body
Yeah.
will
Okay.
avoid what's tight and it will always move into what it can do because it's easier. It's an energy
Okay.
efficient way. So we'll always create compensations and we always sacrifice quality for quantity just to get the task done.
Okay.
But checking in
Yeah.
with ourselves is probably the biggest thing we can do to make sure that can we move in these fundamental ways as a human being.
Right. Definitely. And yeah, I mean, looking at it at the SAM scan that you have, I noticed like you started from the top to the bottom, and everything. You like depending on where it goes. Sometimes it can start from your cerebellum, and going to all the way down to
Neck. Yeah.
your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I like that. So basically, like you saying, as you just said earlier, when you work when you check in a certain area, it could be a combination of things that's going on, and everything. So kind of like when you building a house, you know
Yes.
what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So how that foundation is, built on what's going on. Is it something is it starting from the bottom? Is it the top? We need to fix that, that lets us know what areas we need to work on so we can make sure that prime area of point of interest or point of pain needs to be corrected and so forth. If I'm saying that right,
Yes.
or whatever. Okay.
Would you hire a contractor to build your house? They bring all the tools, they bring all the
Mm,
materials. Would you let
yeah.
them build your house without a blueprint?
No.
I hope not. It's going to be a pretty shitty
Yeah.
house. But
Right.
this is like there's a roadmap, there's an algorithm in the body. And the way I look at the body is how did we develop as babies, right? Where did we first learn
Right.
to move? Well, babies are on the ground, they're moving their arms and legs, they're developing center strength. They're looking around at their environment, they're developing neck control. Well, when they develop neck control, all of a sudden they press up, right? They start bending their spine and they go into quadruped, they go into crawling positions. So now they start to suspend the spine and they manage rotation forces. And then once the nervous system says, oh, you know what? We can go upright now. We can stack the spine because we have the curves to do it. We have the control.
Okay.
And then when now baby's like, I can sit upright, it's going to test itself to stand. Now, if baby's not ready to walk, right, which is walking is unstable. Like in order to move, you have to be off balance. But if baby's not ready to walk because it can't maintain control, where does baby go? Go back down to the floor. The nervous system's like, no, you're not ready. We're going to spend a little more time on the ground. We're going to develop our center strength first. And then when you're ready, I will let you take your first steps. But it doesn't change. We all develop the same way. Our brain controls everything. We develop center strength first, and then we work out, top down, center out.
Okay.
And then we build our movement from the ground up. You know how many times my professional athletes come in, I put them through a SAM scan, I look at everything. They can't roll. They can't roll to one side. I was like, well, that's a problem because rolling's cutting. Rolling is running. So if they're running, they're rotating more towards one side. So I'm like, well, you're overloading that side and it affects their balance. So I get these professional athletes and they're crawling and they're rolling, but it makes them faster. It reduces their pain. They squat better. They're lifting more weight simply because we went back down to the ground to kind of recalibrate and recapture what was lost.
Okay.
But we can hide those things because we're upright. We create compensations. And if we don't go back and kind of check to make sure those fundamentals are still in place, well, then we don't know why they got the injury until we go back down and check them.
Okay. And again, that goes for if they didn't have an injury too as well, they can stop it before it starts.
Yeah. You like those little tight areas, like, oh, back is a little tight. Why? Muscles are dumb, right?
Okay.
Brain's telling you, oh, pay attention to this area. We might be doing something wrong. So now you have a way to quickly check in with the system to see what you've lost.
Gotcha. Okay. And it is something that just, it is something that not only just, I know you say human athletes, but like any age can do in a certain, or whatever.
Any age can do it.
Okay.
We get young athletes, we get older athletes. Now, as we get older, going to the floor sometimes it can be challenging. But I also want to teach my older athletes. I'm like, what happened? What if you fall? Do you know how to get back up? Do you have a strategy to get back up off the ground? Do you know how to, drop your center of gravity if you do stumble? Because what's the most dangerous thing as we get older? Falls. That's what people fear.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they've lost their relationship with the ground. They've lost their ability to kind of pick up. I stumbled. I couldn't catch my foot. Well, I better be able to drop my center of gravity and absorb forces correctly so that I have a relationship with the ground. And the easiest way to do that is start from the ground and build them back up. So that if they do take a fall, if they do end up on the ground unexpectedly, they know how to manage their body on the ground.
Yeah. Okay. And I seen somebody, mobility experts and stuff like that. They were like, the stuff that we did as kids should be the same thing we keep up as
Yeah.
adults. It's just we just stopped doing it once we got older, and that's the reason why we feel these certain
Yeah. Everything's like
pains.
stiff and
Yeah,
sore and
uh-huh,
yeah. Try
yeah.
crawling, hang off stuff. What do kids do? They're hanging off everything. They're climbing everything. How often as adults do we climb and hang off stuff? We don't.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Like get back on the ground. Can you crawl? Do you know how challenging it is? Like we stop crawling because it's hard. It's very energy expensive. But if we can do it, crawling is a precursor to walking,
Yeah,
right? It's cross cord reflex. It's making, right?
I
And
ain't think of it
if you
like that.
can't crawl, if you know, somebody can come in and like, you're running funny or you're walking funny. I get them to crawl. Oh, they're crawling funny. Well, that's why walking looks funny. Clean up their crawling sometimes and all of a sudden they walk better
Yeah, okay,
because it's a
I
precursor.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You've been saying some eye opening things, man, that I didn't even like think of or look at it at a certain way. I like, okay. So now I haven't talked about artists and entertainers, you know, and so forth. So let's go back into that. So everything that we've been talking about, like how can that be applied to certain people that's in the arts and entertainment world, such as a musician, music artist, even models and actors and stuff like that, you know, certain roles that they have and everything. So like what would you like, can you give me a scenario like in any of those I just mentioned that they can help certain ailments before they start, or if they are having ailments and so forth, how to fix
Well,
those
the
things.
nice thing is that they're all human beings, right? And we all run on the same laws of physics and we all
Right.
develop the same way. So you
Hmm.
treat them like athletes, okay? You play guitar
Okay.
here, okay?
Okay.
You know, you might be a
Yeah.
little bit your habitual posture is maybe you're hiking that right shoulder just because how you play guitar, or you play the flute or violin or whatever it is, or you're on the drums,
Hmm.
right? You're sitting,
Yeah.
you know, in the hip flexors. Maybe you've overstretched the glutes. Maybe we need to
Hmm.
do some extension exercises. I don't treat them any
Hmm.
differently because they're all human beings. I need to restore the human athlete first before the specialized athlete. But if I
Okay.
restore the human athlete, the nervous system gets very happy. It takes the brakes off, and now performance goes up because it's going to allow you to do more of the things that you need to do. So, regardless of what type of athlete, I want to know, can you move like a human being first before specializing? And then once you
Okay.
move like a human, the human athlete, well, now we can do all the nuanced stuff that you need specifically for your sport or for your activity. Now we go into
Hmm.
specialization, but they're
Hmm.
already specialized, right? They're already doing lots of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just
Hmm.
going back to the things that we just fundamentally do that is restoring and allowing their body to move in the most efficient and effective way so that they can continue to do what they do from a specialty perspective.
Yeah. Okay. When you say specialty,
Mhm.
when we talking about the artists and
Yep.
entertainers, like, is you talking about like when they performing? Because there's a lot of jumping and
Yep.
running around and
Yep.
stuff like that. And all right, so basically like that. Okay,
Yep. Because that's
gotcha.
specialty,
Okay.
right? If they're doing a lot of jumping, I want to know, can you squat okay? Like, does it hurt your knees to squat? Can you
Hmm.
stand on both legs effectively? Because if you can't, when you're jumping, you might be hitting a little harder on one side and all of a sudden you got Achilles
Right.
issues, you got knee issues on the one side. Well, that's because that's your strong side, but you can't
Hmm.
balance on the other side. So that's why you've got these injuries. So,
Hmm.
you know, looking at the repetitive movements that certain artists or athletes do, okay, great. We know what's hurt. Why did that happen? Oh, you can't do some of these fundamentals. So let's
Yeah.
go back to some fundamentals, reset the system,
Okay.
and then reload it with your specialization training.
Okay. And so, and also too, like you said, check in with themselves and
Check
so
in.
forth. And then like,
Yep.
I would say too, add to that is they know what every job is work hazard. So it's important. I would say to that they need to know their work hazards and strengthen those too. Would you say that's an accurate assumption or accurate assessment?
I think it's being aware of some of the repetitive postures and patterns that they do,
Uh,
right? So if someone, again, like someone's always taking a certain posture, just know that that's going to create an imbalance. So we can do something. We'll use the desk worker, for example, someone who's sitting, let's say drummer, right? They're sitting,
okay.
they're here, they're bent over, and you know, they're going at it. What's the opposite position of sitting? Well, it's standing. What's
Then
the opposite of my hands being out here? It's behind here. Maybe we do some glute bridge, or maybe we do some tabletop bridges to create extension. Maybe we do some kettlebell swings to get the glutes and the hamstrings to start firing up again to take the pressure off the
okay.
back, right? Maybe we do some chops and some lifts to work on cross
Mm,
cord stuff. You know, it all depends on what they can't do, what they've lost, and then you just tailor that in there. You
Okay.
still want them to train as an athlete, but you pepper in some of those little corrective exercises to create balance again so that they
Okay.
don't keep falling into those repetitive postures or patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, instead of them having to correct it, also how to protect it before it
Yep.
happened. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
they need to check in
Yep.
out, often, and or just keep, working on those muscles and stuff like that. So, and everything. Gotcha. Okay. Now when you were speaking can you say again what did you had came down with a few years ago?
I had I toxic shock. I went septic. I had streptococcus A, got into my bloodstream somehow, caused total organ failure, blood clotting. It messed up my ankle. Got my ankle got infected as well. So it basically it put me. I was bedridden for 5 weeks in the hospital. So I had to rehabilitate. I had to use my system. I started from the
Hmm.
ground up. So
Right.
I was on a walker. I'd learned how to walk, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to start from the ground. I would work on rolling patterns and transitions from the ground, just
Hmm.
like a baby. I would do glute
Hmm.
bridges. I would roll. I would do, whatever I could on the ground. And then
Hmm.
once I started getting strong enough here, it got easier for me to walk. It got easier for
Okay.
me to move in my environment because I went after the center structures first before I went to the peripheral.
Okay. So was this something that going through this process or through this hardship, was that something that birthed you doing the AMT system and so forth, or was it something you were doing
It
before,
was, yeah,
or like?
I did
Go
have
ahead.
it set up before. So the whole system,
Okay.
I looked at it as like, okay, time to put my money where my mouth is. Because, being I'll say athlete myself, but I would go to gymnastics and I'm doing backflips and handstands and muscle ups and all this stuff, right? And lifting heavy weight. So looking at what I could do, people might be like, well, you're already an athlete. So, but it really took me back to a state that I don't ever remember being that weak, that feeble, that fragile
Okay.
in my entire life. And I had to
Yeah.
rebuild it back up. I had to look at my
Right.
nutrition. I had to dial in my nutrition. I had to get my sleep. I had to work on my recovery. I had to work on my movement patterns. And I had to do lots and lots of repetitions to build the connective tissue. So I'm back, back flipping and doing all the fun stuff I was before. And I'm now able to sprint again. But it took me
Okay.
some time to build up the connective tissue, the patterns, so that it doesn't hurt me. And I don't, so I don't hurt myself doing the things that I like.
Okay. Yeah. Just and definitely, man. I can relate with you because I didn't go through it as worse as you got it, but I can definitely relate to you because it's definitely an eye opener. Because when you have that you bedridden, I was bedridden for like 3 months,
Wow.
so I that right there kind of took a toll on me. I'm like thinking like, and then when he told me you might need another surgery, boy, I sunk into a sunken place when he
Yep.
said that. Man, I almost started crying.
Yep.
But I definitely understand that a lot of things go through your mind, and you start thinking about ways that once you get back out of it, it kind of opens you. I guess like when they have a life threatening things, similar to what you had and everything, it's like an epiphany go off, and they start living a different way and moving a different way and so forth. So I think people should understand that more, where if you want a long lasting life and a quality of life and so forth, you need to start. I say this foolproof and that and
Yep.
everything, and so you can have that longevity
Yep.
and that quality of life.
Yep.
Because you don't want to get to that point where it gets bad and you can't change it, and everything or whatever, or there's nothing you can do to help it or so forth. So what would you say, like how, like what brought on to you being a physiotherapist, strength coach, and athletic trainer? What made you want to do this?
I mean, I always had an interest in human movement. Growing up, I
Okay.
played all the sports.
Okay.
I got a soccer scholarship down to the US. I was a goalkeeper. That was my primary sport. I grew up snowboarding. I grew up skateboarding, basketball, like all the stuff. It was fun for me. But, playing all the sports gave me a better perspective on just human movement in general. Like I could
Mm,
watch somebody do something and I could mimic it to a level of competency, but I would analyze and then I would copy it and then I would feel it out. I'm like,
mm,
how do I make this more efficient? Like one example is I was 9, 10, 10, I think it was 10 or 11. And remember watching gymnastics, men's floor routine, and they would round off and they'd go into a bunch of back handsprings. And I could kind of break it down enough in my head. And I'm like, I think I can do that. I went out into my backyard and I sprinted across my yard and I rounded off and I did 6 back handsprings. Were they pretty? No, but I was able to copy it enough in my head without hurting myself. And I realized at that point, I'm like, oh, I can analyze things enough to a degree of competency, but then I took that desire or that complete interest in human movement performance into rehabilitation, into high performance. Because if I can teach people how to move better and perform at their best, to me, like that's super fun because I get to problem solve why they can't do the things and then get them to where they want to go. So that was really ultimately my interest in the field. And my soccer career, I'm 5'10" goalkeeper. I wasn't going to be pro.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So 5, that's too short or something?
Yeah. So most goalkeepers are 6'10". Now I could at that time I could dunk a basketball if I could get the handle on it. So I could jump high and I was explosive. I was agile. Yeah. So I wasn't a real soccer player. I'm a goalkeeper. So I stand in the net most of the time and I jump around.
Okay.
So that's what got me there. But yeah, and I love soccer, but I never loved enough of one sport that's all I wanted to do. I love doing everything. I was excited for soccer season, but by the end of soccer season, I was also excited. Snowboard season's coming up. And then by the end of snowboard season, I'm like, ooh, wakeboard season's like, I was always excited for the next thing. And I never had this 100% lean in for this is all I want to do forever. I love doing everything. Yeah. So I figured I'm like, I'm not going to be a pro athlete in anything, but I can work with them and I can teach people how to be the best athlete that they could.
Okay. All right. Definitely, man. I always like to hear people's origin story, like how they came to be and what they're doing and so forth. And you said something very interesting about you was able to see how see how people move and you be able to mimic that based on what you were seeing. I remember Alfonso Ribeiro had to play Carter Bank. Yeah. He said like you see him dancing and stuff like that. He was in Dancing with the Stars and so forth. And he said something about he said, to give y'all a little secret, I really can't dance. You know what I'm saying? He said, I'm just really good at mimicking, and everything. So is that in the same vein you would say? Basically, he's seen them doing it and then he mimicked what they did.
He had a level, when you can do that, you have a level of movement competency that you can take what you see, somebody else do, perform it in your head, and then copy that with your body. Like it's a skill and it can be trained by anybody. I mean, how do kids learn to move? They watch and they observe. We don't sit there and coach our kids how to walk. They're watching mom and dad, they're watching their siblings, and but they're motivated to do it. And then they eventually figure it out, to a degree where they can have some form of success. And your athletes who make it to a professional level, they have that drive and desire and that love for it that they consistently do it all the time. So that's why they become pro. It's a work ethic, right? So, you consistently show up. Best workout program, the one you're going to consistently do every single day. Find the thing you love, do it. Just show up. Just show up and do it a little bit better each time. And even if it's an off day, you still showed up and got practice in. Is it going to be 100% each time? No, that's not how we're designed. But we need to get the practice and the volume in. And then all of a sudden you reach new plateaus and new levels of performance that, you do something long enough, you're going to be top 1%.
Right. And I like that, man. What I was about to say. Yeah. So like, for as, you gave me 2 stories. Well, you really gave me one story about the strongman guy. Do you have any achievements or your biggest stories of success, whether it be something you achieved in your personal life or something you helped somebody else achieve with in your career?
Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate.
That you want to talk about?
Yeah. I've been fortunate. I've had some high level, NHL players. They come in. I've had some where they're kind of bubble players, and then all of a sudden I help them get their big contracts. But even, the little old lady we have this one lady, she's just a machine and she's like 76 and she, mountain biker, and she rides her scooter everywhere. She comes to our place because she doesn't want to go to the other physio clinics or the other gyms because that's where the old people go, right? And she's in the agility ladder and she's still riding her bike. And then she even got hit by a bus and she was bedridden for 6 months and like leg skin ripped off. And she's like, I don't understand why I can't. I'm like, you got hit by a bus. Like, what do you want? But her mind was like, why can't I do this? I'm like, and I love that. But it was her motivator. I want to get back to doing the things that I love. I'm like, great. To me, you know, helping people just achieve whatever goal they want, and then teaching them how to stay there. That's the fun part. Like when they figure it out, when they get to that goal and they want to keep doing more, I have a new goal. Great. That's awesome. We'll help you do that too.
Okay.
We can sit here and talk about all these elite athletes, but it's the general population who continue to just push themselves every day a little bit more, a little bit better. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Man, I agree. I agree. I know we shine a lot of light on the athletes because they constantly in the limelight, and we think of them as Greek gods and goddesses and stuff like that, and we can never attain to that. So that's why I like your approach to it, that we are our athletes. It's just what level we are and how we approach it. Now, is it is there anything we talked a good deal about a couple of things? So is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't discussed yet?
I think I want to leave it with everybody where, you know, I like the quote, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And it's emphasizing that don't keep putting off health, keep putting off your fitness goals to tomorrow or the new year or whatever it is, start today. Because again, you never know what life is going to throw at you, but if you're ready for it, it's not that hard.
Right. Okay, I like that. And so I guess nothing else. You ended on a note right there. I was trying to get you to talk about a few other things, but we can definitely end it on that note.
We can do it. We can do a part 2 for sure.
Part 2. I mean,
when you go through your SAM scan and your knees all healed up and you're dunking a basketball and playing ball, that's what I want to hear because that's what excites me the most.
Okay. All right. Cool. Now, when you said dunking the basketball, I ain't did that in so long.
Aim high, my friend. Aim high.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't put me to the challenge down. I'm gonna get there. Okay. All right. And when we have another conversation, I'm gonna give you my update on my progress and so forth. All right. Cool. So before we get out of here, man, let everybody know again where they can find you. You know, get your services and so forth and everything from there as well.
Yeah. So people who are local to our area, we're ComPhysio, conceptofmovement.com. That's where our physical location is in Barrie, Ontario, just north of Toronto. My education system, the Advanced Movement Therapist certification, is at amtcertified.ca. You can get, I have a handstand course. I've got a complete home training program for people who want to start, but don't have much equipment or space or time. The SAM scan is also there. So everybody who wants to kind of check in or have a way of screening how they're moving so that they can correct problems before they become problems, that's also there. And then my YouTube channel is Tommy Swales. I've got a podcast starting up called Stay Relevant, where I've got athletes and individuals in the performance fields of entrepreneurship, of rehabilitation, sports performance. They're on there. So that's launching actually Sunday, first episode.
Okay.
And then
what that's going to be about?
It's looking at how experts in their areas stay relevant in their field, how they keep evolving, how they keep the excitement in what they do from a longevity perspective, thinking how they think outside the box, but then also how they apply those tactics and principles across all aspects of their life. You know, not just performance, not just entrepreneurship, but in family, in health, everything. And then Instagram is swales.tom, and then LinkedIn is Tom Swales.
Okay, cool. I mean, I might be interested in it if you would like to have me on. And I'm not no pressure, if you know, and everything. If I'm not a good fit, I'm not a good fit. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm just saying, keep me in mind. That's all I'm saying. All right. But yeah, okay, cool, man. Y'all check my man out, check Tom out, and definitely, man, I appreciate you for coming on the show. Definitely had a blast with you. You definitely dropped some gems on it. Opened my mind and thought process and approach a certain way that definitely helped me to coach better, I feel, with my clients and so forth, with the wordings you were saying, like lift the brakes. I like that a lot, you know, and everything like that. You at a certain plateau, but that's basically your body protecting. So certain things like that are definitely going to take me a long way in not only my journey, but me approaching that to my clients too as well, man. So definitely, again, thank you for dropping your insights, and I'd love to have you on again.
That's right.
And the next time, man, we out of here, y'all. Peace out. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for fitness coaching to help you reach your goals, want to join our animated network for fitness, guidance, collaborations, networking, and community, or are interested in being a guest on the show, check out the links in the description. Stay creative, stay fit, and we'll holler at you next time.